Saturday, November 1st, rainy and cloudy. Dawn went up on the farm. I took care of Lowell while she was gone. Sunday, November 2nd, cold and clearing. Just a week now we have had the old time back. How I should like to have the daylight system another summer.
The daylight system, what we now call daylight saving time, was first adopted as a federal war measure in 1918 as a way to conserve fuel during World War I. Its repeal a year later triggered a chaotic era when time zones varied by city, creating a logistical nightmare for the shipping and travel industries. This confusion lasted until the Uniform Time Act of 1966, which finally required states to either adopt synchronized federal dates for daylight saving time or remain on standard time year-round. Dorothy is missing the extra daylight in the evenings now that her town has gone back to the pre-war standard time.
I read a good sermon to a good congregation. We had a good CE meeting. Lowell and I had a great frolic tonight. Monday, November 3rd, cool and partly cloudy. Last night was clear as a crystal and as cold. This morning, everything was frozen solid. It was a beautiful, bracing morning. The constellation of Orion has appeared. That seems like winter.
In the Northern Hemisphere, Orion is a hallmark of the winter sky during the long, dark nights. Historically, the sight of the hunter rising above the horizon served as a reliable indicator of the changing seasons.
Today was election day, and I had a chance to vote but didn't go. I'm sorry now that I didn't. The CE Society had its annual business meeting tonight.
It was common practice for social, civic, and religious organizations to hold their annual business meetings on or around election days. The election Dorothy referenced was the New York general election. She noted that she declined to vote despite New York women gaining suffrage just 2 years prior in 1917. While Congress had passed the 19th Amendment in 1919, it was not yet the law of the land. At the time, the amendment was still moving through the state-by-state ratification process. It wasn't until August 1920 that it became a federal mandate. In other words, Dorothy had the chance to vote, but not all women in America did.
Wednesday, November 5th, cold and cloudy. Our first real snow appeared on the ground this morning. Thursday, November 6th, cold and cloudy. Tonight, Robert and I made out our committees with Alice's help. After the business was done, we regaled ourselves with apples and chestnuts. Friday, November 7th, cold and cloudy, a little snow. I went to Lily's and phoned to Eva. I'll go to see her some other time.
Home telephones were growing in popularity but remained a luxury for many. In rural communities, it was often understood that if you were the first on your road to get a phone, you were essentially the communication hub for the neighborhood.
Saturday, November 8th, cold and cloudy. Papa stayed overnight. We made candy in the evening. Sunday, November 9th, cold but clear and sunny. Dig and I called at Aunt Eva's this afternoon. Ellsworth and Grace were there with the children. Lowell cried, so he had to be taken home. Then Dawn came back. Ellsworth took us home in the car. Monday, November 10th, warmer and sunny. I wore my shepherd plaid dress to school and carried the muff that Dig fixed over for me. I have been getting ready to go to arcade. Tuesday, November 11th, warmer and sunny. I went to a teacher's meeting at arcade. I rode with Sadie. There was a surprise party for Ford, but I didn't go. Dawn and I called at Aunt Eva's. Lowell burned his finger tonight. Wednesday, November 12th, cool and partly sunny. Dawn went to Yorkshire today en route for Baltimore. It seems awfully lonesome without her and Lowell. I sent for some of my things tonight. Thursday, November 13th, cold and snowy. This seems like winter. The Last Supper, as I suppose, was held tonight. It was awfully good. Ada S. was there. It seemed awfully good to have her back. After supper, I went over to Aunt Eva's and spent the evening. Grace is there. Raymond was there too, and he and Grace came up after his songs, so we had some music. Friday, November 14th, cold and snowy. Our ears have been tried with the noises of carpenter work up at school. We had word from Dawn that she is to start Sunday. Saturday, November 15th, cold and sunny. Papa put up the stove. It seems so good to have a fire in the living room. I called at Aunt Eva's tonight. Grace is still there with the children and expects to stay another week. Ellsworth came tonight to stay for Sunday. Raymond was there too, and we played and sang all his songs. Ellsworth is certainly a fine fellow, and he has a nice wife and 2 lovely children. The young minister has arrived and expects to preach tomorrow. I am so happy I could shout. Sunday, November 16th, warmer and sunny. The minister, Mr. Zartman, is just splendid. I do hope he will stay. Raymond, Ellsworth, Grace, Aunt Anne, Aunt Eva, and the children were up here this afternoon. Monday, November 17th, warm and partly cloudy. The men finished carpenter work today. Mr. Blackmare called on Mama this afternoon. Tuesday, November 18th, warm, turning to cold and snow. I stopped at Alice's to see about CE supplies and wrote to Ava this evening. Wednesday, November 19th, cold and snowy. I made out test papers tonight. It went especially easy. Thursday, November 20th, cold and sunny. There was a lecture tonight at the church by L.E. Rundle on his YMCA work. It was fine, but not largely attended.
During World War I, the YMCA provided huts near the front lines. These canteens provided soldiers with everything from essential supplies and stationery to books, sports equipment, and religious services, serving as hubs for entertainment and education abroad.
Friday, November 21st, warmer and partly cloudy. Tests are through and everything went fine. Mama is not well today. Mr. Willis was moving some of his goods today. I hear that he has bought the winch place. Saturday, November 22nd, cool and cloudy. My brown dress came last Thursday, and today I have decided to exchange it for a wine-colored velveteen one. Sunday, November 23rd, cool and partly snowy. Mr. Zartman outdid himself today, and then he seemed almost slipping from our grasp. I simply couldn't rest after CE, so I went back down to Mrs. Lyford's. We went over to Rings, and all together, we have persuaded him to stay until we can see what we can do about raising more money.
Dorothy attended the Curriers Congregational Church, often referred to locally as Curriers Church. As a direct descendant of the Pilgrims, Dorothy belonged to the very lineage that founded the Congregationalist tradition, making her involvement in the church both a spiritual and ancestral connection.
Monday, November 24th, cold and partly snowy. I am so happy I could cry. The pulpit committee met Mr. Zartman tonight, and it is settled. He begins work the 1st of December. I waited at Mrs. Lyford's for election returns. Curriers Corners has certainly made a record today. We have raised what we felt it almost impossible to raise. I think my uneasiness last night was providential, and I am most devoutly thankful for these results. Tuesday, November 25th, warm and damp. I am nearly dead for sleep, but so happy. Every time I say or think the name Zartman, I have such a perfectly delicious sense of possession. I got my money tonight and have sent for my silk dress, hat, and some other things. Wednesday, November 26th, cold and sleety. School is over for this week and I am glad. I called at Aunt Eva's and told her the joyful news about Mr. Zartman. We expect Lynn tomorrow. Thursday, November 27th, cold and frosty. This has been a beautiful Thanksgiving. The trees were covered with frost and everything was a frosty, fluffy white. Lynn arrived this afternoon after a rather funny and strenuous trip. It seems fine to have her here. Friday, November 28th, cold and frosty. Papa spent today at home, since Lynn was to be here. We had a great jollification and made candy this evening. There was a dance down at the hall, but of course, I didn't go. Saturday, November 29th, warm, windy, and thawy. Papa went back this morning. Lynn and I went up on the farm from the station. Lyndon stopped at Aunt Eva's too. Sunday, November 30th, cold and stormy. This has been a real winter blizzard. Mr. Fuller, whose first pastorate was at this church some 30 years ago, spoke on the Pilgrim Memorial Fund.
The Pilgrim Memorial Fund began in 1917 as a major fundraising campaign started by the Congregational Church to provide annuities for retired ministers and their families. Now known as United Church Funds, the organization still oversees hundreds of millions of dollars dedicated to church pensions.
Lyndon returned to Antares this morning. There was no CE tonight. It was so stormy.
Join us as we turn the page to December 1919 in the next chapter of Dorothy's diary. We'll see you next time as we share these cherished tablets of the heart.